Okay, it's 9 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's say pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next up on the agenda, we have public comment. Everybody like to make a public comment? Please do so.
Morning. I am just here to inquire about the windows and blinds. So similar that just happened here in our office. We're having a really hard time performing our duties due to not having blinds. So I didn't know, like, we can't see our computer screens. We've put up like some sheer curtains, not helping a lot. So I didn't know the process or the plan on the blinds.
We'll have to look into that.
I appreciate
don't
it.
know. We can look into that.
You had them.
We are getting,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
bringing in
have-
the shades.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, I don't know, I'd maybe heard that it's when it's all completely done, that she'll measure. Didn't know if due to the fact that we're really having struggles, we can't see our computer screen is probably the worst. But it's like blinding, it'll hit you in the eyes, similar to just sitting here. So I didn't know if maybe she could be contacted, and if at the very least, maybe request that my office and maybe Brenda's. I think we're the two main offices impacted because I doubt you guys have that. So maybe just prioritize mine and the recorder's office.
I know James said that they were wanting to wait till it was all finalized, but I'll reach out to him and let him know you guys are having issues and see if she could come down, because she's gonna measure each window individually. So since you guys is already done, I think he already has the trim done too. I can sure see if she could come down and even start on that already.
Yeah, we would greatly appreciate it. We tried to kind of barrel through for a while, but then they trimmed those trees and that didn't help. And now we're losing leaves. So it's kind of just gradually getting harder. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andy. We'll look into that. Anything else? If not, JD, go ahead.
Morning, JD King, Page County Engineer. Lovely fall day in Page County. Harvest is underway. The engineer update got sent out Tuesday evening later. But you can read here, I'll highlight a few things. We're hauling less rock. We've been hauling riprap with some tandems. And the stockpile that was on Nutmeg is gone to various locations. We're still mowing and cleaning up things. We'll dig as long as we can dig, but we're not digging right now on account of harvest, but we'll start digging again here. When that winds down, we're still waiting parts on the motor grader number 2. Working on the last winter service. And then the contract that was awarded last Friday by the board is fully executed. We're having a pre-construction meeting tomorrow morning. They'll talk schedule then. I anticipate work start on that bridge on 190th and the Middle Tark and your J Avenue. I anticipate that work starting this month. And we've got some dust control on A Avenue and 170th as a result of the state work on 59 at the bridge there north of Shan. We're still getting some complaints, so I'll talk to them, talk to DOT about more dust control. And next week I should have another agenda item for the Bach petition next meeting in the evening. Questions from me?
Any questions? No? We good?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for the update.
Thanks, JD.
Okay. Well, now, when you got, next up on the agenda, we have, the Iowa Public Information Board advisory opinion, on editing meeting minutes before publishing with Eric Heckley. There, she's on Zoom, I see. So, papers around here. Thank Erica for joining us, and I'd like her to go over the advisory opinion with us, and how to address this Board of Supervisor minute process, and what is advised to be included as a permanent objective record of the meeting. Thank you for being here, Erica.
You're welcome. So the Iowa Public Information Board has authority over issues related to chapters 21, which is an open meetings, and chapter 22, which is public records. Under our authority for that, anyone can ask for an advisory opinion. And so we have an advisory opinion that was requested related to the minutes for a county board of supervisors. So that's the background of this. In this, we reviewed the requirements for minutes, which is that every governmental body, which a board of supervisors would meet that definition, has to keep minutes of their meetings. It needs to include date, time, place, the members present, and the actions taken at each meeting. It also has to show the results of each vote taken, and then enough information sufficient to indicate the vote of each member present. The member has to make their vote public at the open session. Those minutes are then public records open to public inspection. With the Board of Supervisors, there's also some additional requirements for the minutes under Chapter 331, which is to also include the text of motions, resolutions, amendments, and ordinances that are adopted by the Board of Supervisors. Under this advisory opinion, the question was whether or not it was normal for an elected county supervisor to review and edit the meeting minutes before publishing. Our advice was that it is the responsibility of every board of supervisor to ensure that the minutes that are provided do accurately reflect the actions taken by that board. And so it would be normal and expected for a board of supervisor member to review those minutes, and if there was something that was inaccurate, to make those changes. So that is our recommendation. The advisory opinion also had some concerns with some of the change that was made that had proven to be inaccurate based on video of the meeting. So the advisory opinion continues that if it's determined that minutes are inaccurate or have been edited incorrectly, then it would be the responsibility of the board or the council to amend those minutes, either to restore them to where they were before that was accurate, or to amend them to reflect what was the accurate action of the board. It also, in this case, the situation was there was some additional commentary or statements by the board member who felt that he would prefer that they state what he wanted to say rather than what the minutes said. So the further advice is that the minutes should not reflect, should include only the legally required content in the minutes and enough additional information to provide some historical and functional value without being too lengthy. Choosing what to include or how comments are phrased, whether intentional or not, is editorializing the minutes, and this can make the minutes be not objective or factual, and can cause issues of misunderstanding and inaccuracy. So because the minutes are the public record of the government's body, it's supposed to be their activities and decisions. Their usage should only be for documenting the official actions of the government body. And so our recommendation and our advisory opinion is to include only the legally required information and enough information to provide context to ensure there's understanding of the actions and topics. We recommend against providing partial commentary or editorial additions. This can, we've seen in multiple situations, create unnecessary issues, such as the one that raised this advisory opinion and complaints that we've had. Minutes should include facts, they should be objective, they should not include opinions, preference, innuendo, or rumor. The minutes are a public record of the government body and should reflect the government body's actions only. I'm happy to answer questions if there are any, or if there are areas that the board had questions about this advisory opinion.
Yeah.
Who requested it?
It was requested by a Matthew Brine. I believe he was out of Calhoun County.
And he was requesting it for Page County?
No,
No, this is an advisory opinion that covers the, under our jurisdiction, under chapter 23. We can issue an advisory opinion about chapters 21 and 22. And so this is a statewide advisory opinion that was approved by our board.
yeah, so this is on this topic, which the question was editing meeting minutes before publishing, which we've been having lots of discussions about that. Trying to figure out what's proper or not, and this applied pretty closely. Also in this opinion, it goes through, I think it mentions the Attorney General opinion from 1992 as the clerk or auditor acting as clerk, and the role that's in that the board is responsible for the minutes and getting this done. Could you speak to that, Penny, from this opinion?
So the government body is responsible for their minutes. So that would be the Board of Supervisors is required to have their minutes. We would hold the Board of Supervisors responsible for their minutes and ensuring that they include everything that's required under the code. It's under the different code sections for cities. You have the city clerk who acts as an agent for the city council. Under this, under the Attorney General opinion, the county auditor acts as the Board of Supervisors agents to make sure the proceedings are recorded in an accurate and correct manner. And that's their requirement under chapter or under Iowa Code section 331-504.
So we're trying to have clarification on this. One thing that came up quite a bit several months ago was, and you already touched on it, was in code section 21.3 was brought up in our meetings more than once, that the part of that where it says the minutes shall show the results of each vote taken and information sufficient to indicate the vote of each member present. That was taken by some to mean that you put reasons in there or discussion to back it up, and I take that. Could you speak to that? I take that as actually how each member voted if it wasn't unanimous.
So we require, and consistently what we require under the code is that it needs to indicate what the vote on that action was. So if it's unanimous, just stating that it's unanimous, or you guys are a 3-member board, so 3-0. If it's a 2-1 vote or a 1-2 vote, we would want to know, we would require that it show who was on each side of that. It doesn't need to include the purpose or why they voted a certain way. Our minutes that we keep for our board meetings just indicate the count of the vote, and if it isn't unanimous, which person voted which way.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, well, we're trying to get something figured out here so we can just have a plan or a policy put in place to make this go smoothly and not have any confusion on it anymore. So appreciate you being here. Questions on this? I'd like to create a policy.
Well, and I guess I ask, I know that this is an opinion from the advisory board, but how do we enforce this or follow this? Because I don't think it's going to, I would like to see it change the way we're doing minutes. My fear is that it's not going to change anything, and we will continue to get pushback. So I don't know what our next step would be.
But I would like
regard
to put together a policy with using this opinion, which is what the state of Iowa said is a good way, or to kind of a guideline to follow.
Okay.
And I think we put together a policy or resolution and maybe have, if Eric is willing, look over it with us after we kind of put it together, make sure we've thought about it and have it addressing what they advised to be done with the minutes to be proper and to be objective and the permanent record without, no matter who reads the minutes, they should all read the same. It's just a factual report of the meeting. It's not a news story. So I would like to follow this guideline, put something together, a policy, maybe make it into resolution, and then we bring it before the board and vote on it. And Eric, would you be willing to help us with that or give us any guidance if we ask you?
If you reach out, I'd be happy to look at anything that's put together as long as it's related to chapter 21 or 22.
Okay.
Erica, I had a question real quick. So are you saying that this opinion basically trumps the Attorney General opinion of 82-1-13?
So we are given guidance under Iowa Code Chapter 23 to interpret what is required under Chapter 21 and Chapter 22. We have that authority. So I would say that, yes, we trump an Attorney General opinion. I believe that opinion is from 1982 on a code section that has been amended so that opinion no longer applies. I believe that opinion was related to whether or not the county was allowed to summarize the resolutions in the paper. The code has since been changed to allow for that. So this Attorney General opinion would no longer apply.
So even though it is over 349 and not under 21 or 22, which is your jurisdiction, you still basically override that.
So that opinion was about publishing in the newspaper the resolutions. Our opinion is about the minutes of a government body under 21 that also bring in chapter 331 because it's a requirement. It has requirements for minutes in that. So we would be the ones interpreting that.
Yeah, well, so, and then in this opinion, we quote an opinion from the Attorney General opinion from 1992 is quoted in here also, a later opinion on issues of how the auditor acts as agent to the board, merely an agent. So, we need this clarified. It'd be good to get this clarified. We don't want to talk about minutes anymore. We want to have it solved and be factual and objective and the permanent record of the Board of Supervisors minutes. So I'd like to put together a policy on that. We can work on that and have that looked at and make sure it's proper and makes a really objective, permanent record. We can have
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may I have a moment?
we're just asking, oh, Kim?
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would just like to speak to the fact that I've been with county government, in and around county government for a number of years. And some of you may think it's time for me to go, and some of you are glad I'm here, and so be it. But what I want to say, I've seen this minute thing, this contention about what the minutes show. I've seen it before. It's an ebb and flow. It's like a cycle that counties go through sometimes. And there have been times in Page County's past where we did try to trim it back to where all it was this motion, this person seconded, and the vote. The problem with that is, folks, is that when you try to look back on that, when you want to reference that on down the road, and maybe people have left, or it's just been a number of years, if you don't have some of the supporting stuff to go with that, it's no good. You don't know what's happened. If you want to talk about transparency, there needs to be enough there for people to know what the discussion was. And I'm sorry, but these three people right here, their opinions that are not supposed to be in there, they're what they base their decisions on. So why would you not? I mean, to me, their opinions should be included. If it's something that they feel strongly enough to state, then what is the purpose, or what's the harm in it being in those minutes? Now, we've also seen the other extreme, not in Page County, but in a neighboring county, where they recorded every conversation that went back and forth. And that's ridiculous. It is. But to get enough of the history or of the, for example, we purchased road maintainers, and we purchased a John Deere and a Cat. Because typically in the past, I'm just saying in the past, it's always been, it went to the lowest bidder, right? But maybe these folks had a reason that they wanted to have one John Deere and one Cat. And that's the kind of stuff that needs to be included in those minutes. So I agree with, I don't know what the lady's name is, but I do agree with her. If there is something inaccurate, absolutely, that needs to be corrected. But if it was said in an open meeting being recorded, I mean, you can go see, it wasn't inaccurate or wasn't an accurate statement. So I want to encourage you, we've been down that road where we trimmed them down to where nobody would know what really happened or why it happened. And the why, to me, is almost as important as the vote. And it can be a positive thing or a negative thing. Maybe we weren't able to fund somebody that everybody supported funding, a good cause, but we couldn't do it. And there's a reason why we couldn't do it. We want to say the reason why we couldn't do it, and maybe we'll look at it in the future. You know what I'm saying? I hope I'm making it clear. I just feel like you can't trim those minutes down to just the bare minimum. And everybody does minutes different. You could go across 99 counties and find 99 different ways that board minutes are done and across different organizations. But I implore you that you include enough information that the people can read it and know what was your thinking behind the decision you made. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. Maybe have Erica speak to that, but factual information is fine. Numbers, figures, bids. When you get into comments, this is comments or feelings and partial, maybe one person's comments, not another's, because you can't have every comment, which is spoke to in this opinion. Then you open up a world that could be not objective. You could read it and see something totally different than what happened. So, because you can't write every word. We do have a video, which is very handy if everything's working, that they didn't used to have, which is an extra resource we're glad we have, I thought to have. So, Erica, Kim brought a point up there. Can you speak to that? Or you kind of went over that and what the opinion says on having discussions and feelings and all these things in the minutes that aren't facts.
Well, I would say our recommendation is that, you're not able to provide a transcript of what happened. So by choosing what to include and not to include, how to summarize things, it can create editorialization, which creates issues. So our recommendation is to keep it as factual and objective as possible, include what is required under the code and only so much context as is needed. And there is nothing under the code that requires or encourages to include the discussion or the purpose for why somebody voted a certain way. And that the minutes should just reflect the actions that were taken, the votes that were made, who was there, and enough context to understand what has happened.
Right.
The one thing I would say is that it gives the opportunity for our constituents to talk to us, because I've had people ask me, well, why'd you vote that way? And we have open dialogue with people, certain votes, if they have questions about it, if they've seen it in the minutes or they've seen, on the video, they have the ability to contact us and ask us if they're interested in why the reasoning behind the vote. They don't have to read about it from a person's opinion. So, I encourage people, if ever we vote on something, which I've had a lot of people call me and ask me why we voted a certain way or why I voted a certain way, and I explain to them. And, it just gives us another avenue of dialogue with people that we represent. So,
and we're fortunate to have many news outlets reporting on most of all of our decisions. The minutes are the permanent objective record of the board. And we want them to be that way and not to be, there should be no disagreement on what's in the minutes, as long as the motions are correct, the resolutions are correct, the votes are correct. It should be a very simple issue. Like when we enter into the world of half the comments there and half of them are, and they're skewed whichever way, then it just makes a mess. And I think that's why the code has these requirements.
You mentioned permanent record, Jacob. permanent record is very important, and in the past, when the minutes were taken, they have prevented us from losing lawsuits because of the documentation that is there. Elaine can attest to that. Melissa can attest to that there were lawsuits. And by having the information in there, it prevented us from losing those lawsuits. What Erica is doing is recommending, she's not saying it has to be that way. And also, I would say, from what you've said, Erica, that the information you're giving us is, as a recommendation, you say that we don't have to have that information in there. Excuse me, but there's nothing that precludes us from putting more information in there. And if that information is what was said and not editorialized, which it hasn't been, then there's nothing that says we can't put more information in there. Yes, there are certain requirements of what needs to be in there, but there's nothing that says we can't put more. We can't put the reasoning. And lots of times I want the reasoning in there as to why I voted a certain way.
No, to speak to that, to say, yes, something is said, but if the response is not in the minutes, then it's editorializing. Because you read the minutes and half of it will never be there. So you have now skewed the forever view of the minutes. It might have been said by one person, but the response is not had, or only the views of one side of a discussion are put in the minutes and not the other. You now have something that's not objective. And then in a lawsuit down the road, that could hurt us also, because if you get outside of facts and you only have half of the permanent record being half of a conversation, that's not good in a legal situation either. So,
and I'm all about transparency and having this information in there. And I have asked certain times that my comments be put in there. And then when you have gone back and taken so much out of the minutes that has been put in there that you can't follow the information. The people of Page County, as I've said before, have not asked for the minutes to be changed.
well,
I have not heard anybody come up and say, I want these minutes changed. I want more. I don't want all this information in there. Most of the people have said, we appreciate that information because you're being transparent and we can tell what's
Well, I
happening.
think we're still being transparent
yes, very transparent.
without the editorializing of our minutes. And
Yes,
I would say
they
we've had
are our
several people.
minutes, not the auditor's minutes.
I would say that we've had many people over the last several months come into the auditor's office and appreciate the fact that there is some discussion in there. And for the sake of transparency, they appreciate that. We've had many state that they don't have time to watch an hour or 2-hour video each week, and that they really appreciate having sometimes that not just the motion and how each member voted, but basically the support of why each member chose to vote the way they did. So I would say from our standpoint and from the discussions we've had with people, that they do appreciate that transparency and continue to want to have that continued transparency in the minutes. So
well, this all started and ramped up in January, and in discussion that was included for this transparency, half discussions were included to promote items wanted. But when I read these minutes, I sit on this board. That's what was being done. So we would have to sit down and basically write the entire meeting down to make them transparent. Because you can't have just discussion points by one side and what they're pushing, and the other side is left out. And then that's sent to the newspaper and published before we even see them. That is happening, as happens every week. So this is the Board of Supervisors minutes. I don't want to get into all this opinion. I went to the state of Iowa, who's in charge of on certain avenues of the minutes, directing us if we get in trouble, this is who we're turned into on not doing it properly. I would like to make a policy to clean this up, abiding with the state of Iowa, to make it simple, and where we take anything that can be not objective out of the minutes. We make them objective and factual and include facts, prices, figures. You can see in the minutes from last week, all the figures we did for the bids, who we hired doing JD's road project for the bridge replacement. That's all there. That's facts and figures. That's not opinion. That's not anything to argue about. When we get into discussion and comments and public comments, it goes everywhere. And half of them aren't even included, and it just makes a very skewed picture. So people that are reading these minutes that are so happy there's information there, they're not even getting all of it. So it's not a transparent issue, a transparency issue. It's actually causing confusion, and it's not objective. So that's all we want to do. I think this is a kind of a question that was raised. Can the supervisors do this? Or they're published?
And I would say, just case in point, if you look at this week's minutes that we're reading, Tom Wagner, I think, stood up and talked, he had some time allotted he wanted to talk to the board.
Right.
There is one sentence, and I think he talked for 20 minutes or so, probably, only one sentence on so none of that was covered of
Yeah.
what he brought or talked about. But, so we pick and choose what we're putting in the minutes, and I think that's what we want to try to get away from.
Yeah.
Because that's a source of all the discrepancy and the argumenting and everything, and if we just get to the facts, then there's no argument. There's nothing, nobody can dispute that. So,
And any prices, figures, things that matter like that, let's put them in there for the record, so we can look back and see what the John Deere road grader cost, what the cat cost, what the two of them together cost, and the way we did it, that's fine. Put all that in there, that's facts, that supports the decision.
And
Can
I
the
think
public make a
just-
comment?
just a second.
I would just like to say that we have in the past put those in there. And some of that specific information regarding costs and things like that have been taken out. Like if your rewritten minutes you've crossed some of that information out. So like if you look at the August 20 or 31st minutes you resubmitted, we had information in there regarding the jail and costs, and it was regarding how much the new facility would cost and about the square footage and things, which was, I think, very important information for the voters to know. And those were items you didn't want in there.
So that was all
You
public
wanted
comment.
eliminated.
And public comment we've talked about is very, in any minutes anywhere, and Eric can speak to that. if she
They
wants.
weren't public comment. It was from Greg Wild when he was presenting about the jail.
Right, well, it's
So it
discussed in
was
the jail,
specific information from him regarding exactly how much the jail would cost and figures regarding the jail.
which was on our video in the meeting and in the media, all media, and the newspaper. So those were all printed everywhere. In the minutes, when somebody comes in, just like Tom Wagner came in, like Tom said, and spoke a lot of facts and figures the other day. Your minutes that was produced by your office didn't include any of them. Not one word of one number of
But
all the
this is-
dollars that were saved.
These are from
on the
Greg
roads?
Wild, who was responsible for the jail.
Yeah.
The
We
price
did.
of the jail is what I'm saying. So I guess I'm confused when you say you want facts and figures in there, but yet then you only want parts of that in there, because now these minutes clearly show that you did not want some of these figures in there specifically from the source they came from. And so how are we I guess what I'm trying to say is, how are we supposed to know on which figures you want in there and which you don't? Because there's other minutes I could pull up too that would show
We have to
during
have a,
voter grader discussion, some of those were cut out too.
okay, I'd like to respond. We'd like to have a policy made to do that, to make it easy for you to do that. And like I said, you take one and not the other. We went to doing this months ago. It doesn't even matter. You print whatever you want in the newspaper. That's been happening for months. We just went to a sheer, until we get a policy in place, which we need help with. We just went sheerly to Iowa code requirements because it's simpler and these are just done. This was never printed for anybody to see. We're not even exactly sure where they all are. I don't exactly know where all of our official minutes even are right now in this mess. That's why we need a policy and a resolution to resolve this. But to your point,
And
We
are still
had-
following the
you're
code of Iowa.
concerned about this. Last week, our minutes, Tom pointed out a bunch of different dollar figures and how much money was spent on rock, spent on shoulder rock and not there. It went through the figures, how many miles it could have done. None of that's in there. It says he made a public comment concerning secondary roads. So that's not in there. So that's your minutes you wrote, we haven't even seen yet until after they were sent out. So that was your decision to not include that. You're about facts and figures and
Those
more
were not my
information.
decisions. You have continually told us not to put public discussion in there. So there.
Well, then you go
comparing
on and
apples
He
to
was
oranges
not
with
public
this
discussion,
discussion.
though. He
He was not. He was on the agenda.
on the agenda.
And it says he made public comment. He was on the agenda. It says, and I did change one word in last week's minutes. It says Tom Wagner It says gave public comment about the county secondary roads department expenditures. It's all it says. No facts and figures. He went on. He gave several facts and figures. All I changed I said, Tom Weiner discussed county road secondary department expenditures, because I didn't know how to take your minutes and fix that other than just say discussed it. He did not give a public comment. He was on the agenda. But if you were so concerned about that, as you say you are, there would have been a whole lot of numbers. But those numbers were negative to things that I believe you aren't in agreement with. So that's why they're not in the minutes.
I'm saying.
The
though,
board
that
needs to
these are-
have, hold
this
on,
was
not
jail
that, please wait.
information.
The-
So
the-
it's different.
Please wait, the board needs to have a policy of what we want that is acceptable and proper and right. And then you'll know what needs to be followed.
Tom
Okay.
Wagner started off last week by bashing me to begin with. And then he went around, and I've had a number of people tell me that they watched the video and they couldn't even tell what he was talking about part of the time, because he was going around in circles.
Well, that's
So
your
I think
opinion
it
on
was
that.
very difficult to even follow last week.
So put the caboose on this whole thing. I would like to do a policy, because I don't want to have all these discussions anymore. We need to have a proper, objective policy put in place, and I'd like to put that together, and we can send it to Erica and have her do that. We don't need to talk about it anymore. We have an opinion to look at here, and I'd like to move forward. So we don't.
Can I
so
make
we'll
a
just move on
comment?
to moving on now.
Oh, we have a public,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah, this is Ryan Yurkowski. I just wanted to point out another flat lie by Supervisor Clark in her earlier statement. As she just rolled her eyes, she said that no member of the public has ever been in there asking for the minutes to be changed. And that's a flat lie, because I myself have asked multiple times and pointed out discrepancies in the minutes and how they need to be changed. And the only concern when this started out that Supervisor Clark had is about who requested this. And my question to Supervisor Clark is, why is it important to you, the most important thing to you, as who requested this? Is it so that you can get on your radio platform and try to publicly shame them, Supervisor Clark? Because why would that be a concern? It doesn't matter who requested it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So on that, if we're kind of good with that, I'd like to look into going to that policy, creating a policy so we don't have to discuss this anymore and we have things that are proper and done right. So we'll move forward. Erica, we'll get something put together. I appreciate you being here this morning.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Yes, thank you. All right, next up on the agenda, we have, what we got here, our wind ordinance draft we're working on. So flip open to that.
I've not heard anything back from Paul, so I'm not sure if he's busy or, I'm sure he's probably busy doing.
Well, I was thinking about this and I looked that we go to the wind ordinance draft and we go to that part where it said 500,000 up to 500,000. Where's that at? On the road use. You remember that section?
Yeah,
It says at no time, security in excess of 500,000 per each wind farm will be required. I was thinking about that and I said, we didn't know what number to pick because we don't know how to know what the roads are gonna cost to fix and estimate that. I'd like to ask him if you guys are good with it. I wonder about just removing that. Why are we putting a limit on it?
yeah, maybe.
Why not just delete the sentence?
Yeah, just don't hold yourself to a limit, just because it's gonna change. The price is gonna
Things are
change.
changing, there's inflation, it's difficult to know how
Box
to put
yourself in
that.
a corner without, yeah, I'm good with that.
I mean, do you have any thoughts on that, Judy, how that's
I don't.
written? Just maybe removing the limit, just not even putting writing on that. I didn't hear you, did you have thoughts on that?
I said no.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Okay, well, that's the thought I was thinking about the other day, maybe we just remove that sentence. The other thing is on the back of the actual ordinance there, we talked about liability insurance. I was trying to look at other ordinances. This is $3 million per occurrence, 6 million in aggregate. I don't think that sounds very high for something that's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of project and how big of things they have with, there could be fires, there could be all kinds of things with liability. So I didn't know if maybe that's another thing I thought of maybe to look at, see if you can see some figures of what that liability insurance should be.
Yeah,
That's a question I thought maybe you guys see something. I think that doesn't sound very high.
be interesting to see that it just had a fire up at,
Yeah,
is it by Dare? or-
yeah. Just in the light of a fire, if it would burn a large area with many homes, it would be several $1 million pretty fast. So that's something else I highlighted here.
Okay.
But I don't know if we could see if we could get, we should ask Carl maybe to come to our next meeting and go over all this with us, so he can just make a note as we go page by page. Cause I've been sending some things here and there, and it seems to be slowing us down trying to do that. If he would just come, we could get that done. I still haven't found anything on, we talked about last week, the fines if they don't follow the designated hauling routes. What should a proper fine be? I have not.
I think I saw, some county did $1,000 per incident. Somewhere, I have to go back and look at my ones that I've pulled up, but I think I've seen that somewhere.
Per infraction or.
Fraction, yeah.
Well, that's something else. I'm trying to get a number for that so we can get this done. What is the proper fine for that legal deal? But that's, so I don't know. So those issues there need an answer. I did make note here to include the wording to make the wildlife studies public so people can see that.
Yep.
Get that done. So what do we think? Do we need to have him come to our next meeting so we can go over this?
Would it be beneficial to have like a work
Or
session?
just have a special meeting with him and we just go over this? We can do another.
And I don't know how you, if you can do something like that.
We just have to have an agenda.
Yeah.
We can do it right here.
Oh,
Try to get this, all these little numbers entered
so,
in here.
yeah, so we can kind of get closer to a final rough draft and kind of tie up all the loose ends.
I would be good with just doing a simple, just something on just that even, just to get this done. Is there a time that would work? Was it next meeting, or you want to do something special, Carl? What do you think?
Would it be better to do it during the meeting time? Or would it be better to have something special?
You just sit down and go over it to get the draft done.
Why don't you let Carl put it all together, what you've given him?
Well, I keep
and-
doing
and then
that.
look at it,
It'd be nice to have him as we
but
go.
you keep adding more and more.
I know. Well, as we go over it, he could even say, well, this is fits here, this doesn't, or give us legal advice as we go through this, trying to think about it.
I don't know that he has a lot of time to sit down and go through a work session.
Well,
He's got cases and trials, and so I think,
He's the board's attorney to go through
I
this,
understand
so,
that, but he's also the county attorney
Yeah,
who has a big job of his own.
So I don't know, maybe just, maybe contact him, ask him to come to the meeting next week, bring what he has all together.
and then we'll go over it
And-
again, try to get done.
Yeah, and maybe if he, I don't know, even if he could make copies for everybody to,
Got to look at, maybe,
and then we could look at together, yeah.
okay. Okay, well then, we'll try to reach out to him and get that going. Next up, I don't know on the agenda, if we're good with that, is Carol Atkins. Is she on Zoom? Are you on Zoom?
Did she leave? Yeah, she left.
She left. She had to be somewhere at 10 o'clock.
She had
Okay,
to be in Bedford.
So she's gonna reschedule.
okay, she rescheduled, she's here. We'll reschedule number 8 then, the Family Crisis Center,
She wants to be on next month's day meeting,
next month's day meeting. I'll try to.
if she can at 9 a.m.
Okay. All right, well, next up, number 9 is our communication. I did have a question. I saw the email about the boiler alarms, water alarms. I thought maybe, I don't know what we want to do with that. I don't think that they, do we know a price on that? There's no estimate. So do we need to reach out to them and just ask what it will cost to decide what we want to do?
So Brian had said that it was excluded specifically from the contract, so he thought that was something you guys had decided you didn't want in the contract. We do have to have that to meet code, so,
well,
or
then they do.
not code inspection. So he had said that they can do it, but he said it would probably be cheaper if we went through
Just had,
a local electrician, so.
okay. I think what we're talking about is whenever we were talking about leaving the ones we had in place, was put an extra alarm in there. If we'd have a water break, it would say, hey, if it's over the weekend, we have a break in the water.
This is for the emergency
Emergency
shut
shut
off.
off, right?
Yes,
That's what,
so
okay.
if there's a fire or something horrible, it's a
It'll shut her
button you
down.
hit and it shuts everything down immediately. So, we do have an electrician coming in to do some work on some other things, so I can.
Maybe have
ask
a look
him.
in.
if he would be fine with doing, which I'm sure he
I would
would, so.
suggest that he go ahead and do that,
Yeah, we probably need to have it.
get it
to
done.
have him look and see what it costs. And I mean, we gotta do it, but we should probably always, see what it will cost us before we do it. So I'd like to know what it is and we'll get a plan there. Okay, that's all I had. I was wondering about, I saw that email. I have a landfill meeting tonight.
Yeah, I don't have anything pressing right now, so.
Do you have anything, Judy?
I have a meeting with the Interagency Council next week, which is former Human Services Council.
Okay, all right, we'll move on. Number 10, the claims. We passed all this around before the meeting and looked it over. So,
Make a motion that we pay the claims?
I'll
okay,
second
and a
that.
motion and a second, to pay the claims. We roll call that, please?
You know, I don't think we need to do a roll call on every vote. It's only,
If we're not unanimous, I guess we'd have to declare it.
right,
We're doing that just to make it,
I don't think we need to do that every time.
Do you want it roll called or not?
we're just trying to, I guess if we don't are unanimous, we'll have to roll call, so. I don't know if we should just do the roll call just to do it. I don't know. What do you think, Todd?
It doesn't matter to me if it's easier to, I mean, just say all in
We just
favor,
gotta-
say aye. I mean, if we're all in that, I would think if we aren't unanimous on stuff, we probably should
Right.
roll call.
We just have to
That's fine,
remember to
yeah.
do
Is
that.
that okay?
Right,
Okay.
Let's just make sure we don't forget if we're not unanimous.
Could
roll
we
call.
ask the chairman then to state back that the motion carried 3-0 for us, please? If
Yeah. We
that
gotta do
would-
that. I'll try to
we
remember
can
that.
get that in the minutes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Motion carried 3-0. Remind me if I forget that, somebody. Motion carried 3-0. Okay, we got the claims done. And right here. Next up, we have the minutes. You probably went over, mine went over, and here's what I went over.
We'll switch it.
Yeah, I'm trading here, see if they look the same. There's Judy, here you go.
Todd have one too.
Yeah, I gave him one. Oh, Todd's one. Let
Todd gave you,
Yeah, I only had one.
oh, okay.
So, I mean, you can,
me see, I think, I'll pass them over here.
Do you have a copy for us, Jacob?
Yes, I do. So if it passes, I'll give them to you here. Okay, I'm looking at Todd's real quick here. Looks exactly the same to me.
well, I didn't have discussed. up on
Oh,
top
yeah,
of
I
it.
did change that word.
I didn't change that,
So
so.
that's right. It wasn't public comment.
Yeah,
It was,
you're right.
he was on the agenda, so I did
Yeah.
change the word gave public comment about thee to the word discussed. Okay, so then on that, I'll make a motion on these minutes, to approve the amended minutes from October 27th to meet Iowa Public Information Board guidelines.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on that? We'll vote. I guess we're gonna need to roll call this, I would
Can you
say.
clarify what you mean by the Iowa Information Board guidelines for us?
So we just went over. And so I'd like to,
So, yeah, just say they're to the board advisory opinion, 23A0. I guess, right? Is that what?
I made my
You did.
motion. I made my motion. We'll vote accordingly.
Okay,
Okay. So I'd like to have this roll call, please. I made the motion. Let's vote on the motion.
yes,
Yes.
No,
Okay. All right. Got that done. I think we're to the easy part, to adjourn. We have anything else to say? We're adjourned? We're good? Got a motion to adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Anyone second it?
3-0 unanimous.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. All right, we're adjourned. Thanks for coming.